Hello and welcome to today's 35th webinar in the On the Move webinar series, How to Create a Safer and More Productive DC, brought to you by Honeywell Intelligrated. I'm Tracy Niehaus, Director of Marketing for Honeywell Intelligrated, and I'm your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. Please note that this presentation's audio is provided by phone number or through your computer sound system, so be sure to turn up your computer's volume. You may ask an online question at any time today throughout the presentation in the Q&A feature along the bottom of your screen. Simply type your question into the text area and hit send. Questions will be addressed at the conclusion of the presentation, with the exception of technical questions that can be asked and will be answered real time by our Zoom producer. Please note that we recommend that you be hardwired when attending this webinar, as a Wi-Fi connection may result in lag time in slides updating and graphics loading. Today's webinar includes polling questions. Please feel free to answer these questions when they appear, and be sure to click submit so we can include your response, as we will be sharing the results real time during this live event. And if you'd like to revisit key sections of today's webinar, it will be available on demand at intelligrated.com/on-the-move approximately 48 hours after this live event. You'll also receive an email in a couple of days with a link to the recorded event. Now on to the presentation, How to Create a Safer and More Productive DC. Discussing today's topic will be Chris Fuel, Chief Marketing Officer for Honeywell Intelligrated. As Chief Marketing Officer, Chris is responsible for developing end-to-end solutions and services for customers, transforming their automation and digital performance within warehouse and distribution centers through increased productivity and reliability. A senior marketing executive experienced in the automotive, energy storage, and building technology systems and services industries, Chris joined Honeywell Intelligrated in February 2019 after working 8 years at Johnson Controls in Milwaukee and Detroit, including time spent in vice presidential positions. Previously, she worked in directorial and managerial roles at Ford Motor Company. Throughout her career, she has amassed a strong track record of profitable sales and revenue growth in both B2B and B2C organizations. And we are also joined today by Taylor Smith, Chief Marketing Officer for Honeywell's Productivity Products business. In his role, he leads marketing and strategy of the products and solutions that help mobile workers throughout the warehousing, retail, transportation, healthcare, logistics, and field services industries to be more efficient in the workplace. He has more than 15 years in the AIDC industry, serving in both senior and executive roles. He joined Honeywell in 2008 through the Metrologic acquisition, serving in numerous product management and product marketing roles within that business. And before Metrologic, he was a market analyst for Venture Development Corporation, a market research and consulting firm. And with those introductions, the webinar will now begin.
Thanks, Tracy, and thanks for everyone joining here today. Chris and I are really excited to share kind of our thoughts on the industry and what we're seeing happening out at our customer sites, and share with you what Honeywell's doing to help many of our customers respond to the challenging environments that we're in today. And so we're not unaware of kind of the challenges that any business in the world is facing today. Whether you're a retailer, a logistics provider, a healthcare organization, a manufacturer such as Honeywell, each business is kind of facing their own challenges, everywhere from kind of what your customers expect, and particularly focused on the retail industry. There have been massive changes over the last several months as we look at huge surges in demand in certain retail industries, the inability to even operate stores in other industries for non-essential retailers, given national or local regulations. But overall, I mean, consistently, there's been a massive shift to e-commerce and the expectation of your customers to be able to purchase items online. And we've seen that shift of e-commerce really accelerate 3 to 5 years with the increase in demand of people being forced to move to online that may have not been ready for it, may not have wanted to do it, or may not have preferred to do that, because online in many areas are the only way or best way and safest way to get products today. And so there's a number of kind of challenges and implications that brings forward with the acceleration of e-commerce. But not only delivering on the e-commerce demands of your customers, you have employees. And Honeywell is experiencing this with our own employees, but employees are wondering when they do have to go on site, whether it's to man the front line of a cashier station, whether it's to work in your warehouses to help fulfill orders, like they're concerned. Do they have the right protection? Is the environment that they're operating and working in safe and clean? Like, how do you make your employees feel more comfortable? And then lastly, obviously, you as business managers, executives, as kind of shareholders and stakeholders for your company, like, what are your concerns? How do you ensure that you're able to deliver a safe and healthy environment for your employees? How are you managing with capacity constraints, given maybe a reduced workforce, or capacity restraints because of surging demand? And all of those really come together in how do you drive your business best going forward? And we like to think and like to share some of our thoughts and perspective with how Honeywell can help address that, but also what we're seeing on in the industry. But before we get into that, if we go to the next slide, we'd like to really kick it off to hear from you all. So with our first polling question, of which we have 3 today, we'd really like to understand what is your kind of greatest concern related to the safety of your workplace? And there's lots of different areas that you may be considering. I mean, here we've listed 4, or you could potentially select all of them, but is it tracking and monitoring of shared devices? So oftentimes things that were unthought of before, whether it's sharing the steering wheel of a forklift truck in a facility, or a mobile computer, or sharing a 2-way radio, whatever it may be. Is it worrying about sharing and tracking and monitoring of shared devices? Adhering to social distance requirements. Many people are trying to keep that 6-foot or 2-meter distance. Ensuring the cleanliness of devices, workstations, and other work areas. Or ensuring that your employees have the appropriate personal protective equipment. Could be any of those, could be all of those. Maybe even some other items that unfortunately we didn't list here, but we really want to hear from you as far as what's on your mind front and center as it relates to delivering a safe workplace today. And having talked to many customers, I can tell you that all of these are really front and center. I'd say personal protective equipment comes to mind a lot with Honeywell, because everyone's very familiar with Honeywell being in the news for the personal protective equipment that we're getting, but many of the other items really starting to see uptick there, particularly in our aerospace division. We talk about cleaning workspaces and devices. Honeywell's announced kind of cleaning a aircraft in several minutes using UV lights. So we're really trying to explore in every area. So
yeah, I think that's true, Taylor. We're hearing a lot from customers as well about how do they know if their employees are complying with the social distancing requirements or other requirements related to the steps that need to be taken for their workflow at their workstation and in cleanliness and things like that, with the objective of not only keeping their employees healthy and safe and productive, but the entire facility healthy, safe, and productive.
Yeah, that's great, Chris. So I think we've had enough time, so we're going to go ahead and close the polls here and actually see what you had to say. All right. So there you can kind of see everyone's responses. All of the above, interesting to a lot of people. That's good as it relates to the content that we're going to cover here today. And really outside of all of the above, just as Chris mentioned, really, how do you begin enforcing that social distancing? And we'll be able to address some of that as we move forward. And some of the stuff that we've actually heard from our customers is it's not so much that their employees want to consciously break it, but we're social creatures. We like to engage with our colleagues and friends, and sometimes you just need that reminder to keep that separation. So we'll address that a little bit later. So if we go ahead on to the next slide, let's really try and frame the challenge or the problem that we have today. Yep, there we go. So kind of fundamentally put, a employee could really be asymptomatic or kind of unknowingly contagious for about 14 days. And that's really the risk period that we see and kind of educating our customers on. Couple that with, as we've interviewed and spoke with a number of customers, really less than 10% of the organizations have the robust safety procedures necessary to combat the spread of these type of contagions, whether it's the cleaning procedures, whether it's the social distancing, whether it's trying to drive more automation to have more contactless engagement and automation. But many organizations really weren't necessarily prepared for this type of environment that we're operating in today. And if we go ahead to the next slide, what is really at stake? Obviously, first and foremost, is the health and safety of your worker. I mean, that comes foremost for all of us and should be number one at risk. But obviously, there's a business impact as well to that. And just as an example, if you take a single mobile device, whether it's a shared two-way radio or a rugged mobile computer like Honeywell provides, that device could exchange hands up to 84 times in that week or two period, based off of shift work, break time, etc. And that period is really where there's a number of risks for spread of the virus. And just that single device, where many of your organizations are operating thousands or tens of thousands of those types of shared devices, that could result in $135,000 of paid sick leave, operator and employee downtime, inefficiencies. And so when you extrapolate that to the number of devices, number of employees that you have, kind of this improper or kind of unknown cleaning of assets, managing of the workplace, could be a multi-million-dollar challenge. And that's what we're here to really try and address, is the safety and productivity of your workforce and company. So if we go forward to the next slide, this is what we've been hearing. You mentioned it with answering all of the above, but really, like, are our work environments clean? How do I know that? I've written all of these great policies and procedures that says, clean the bathroom every 3 hours, wipe down the cafeteria. We're hiring cleaning crews to come in overnight to clean workspaces or a retail environment or the distribution center. But how do I really know that the cleaning is occurring and at a sufficient level? How do I keep my operations running at normal levels despite the new challenges? You may not be able to staff the same number of employees to safely social distance. You may not be able to find the number of employees that are willing to come into work. Whatever the reason may be, you have to keep operations running at a level that you may otherwise be challenging given the workplace and staffing. And then, as we already all mentioned, the e-commerce adoption. That is accelerating faster than many were ready and prepared for, and that is probably stressing your supply chain, your omni-channel delivery, and in some cases, just your acceleration to stand up an e-commerce site and capability. And so these are the types of questions that we constantly get, and we'll hope to address many of those over the coming slides.
What's interesting about that e-commerce point, Taylor, is what we saw from the data and heard from customers is that most of that e-commerce growth came from incremental buyers who typically did not shop online, a completely new demographic, and the average basket size more than doubled from pre-COVID levels. And because of that, we're expecting these e-commerce rates to pretty much settle in and continue to grow as all of these new users are completely comfortable and adapted to buying online and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. So it's a shift.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I just take myself personally, right? we never really bought groceries online, big online shopping family outside of that. And now we're buying a lot more groceries online and probably will continue to do so. So you're absolutely right, Chris. If we go ahead to the next slide. So this is really kind of how we think about framing Honeywell's ability to address many of these challenges and bring value to our customer base. One is around protecting people and places. And that's really about your workforce, your employees, your facilities, and making sure they are as safe and healthy as possible. And we'll get into some specifics on each of these. Then driving productivity right now with the employee base that you have, with the level of automation that you may already have. But how do we drive productivity now in the environment that you're in? Again, whether it's taking your standard workforce to meet surges in demands, or taking a reduced workforce to drive safer operations to meet standard or maybe slightly lower demand. Either way, productivity can really help you meet and drive a safer environment at a more cost-effective manner. And then lastly, you get into that optimization phase, where we really start looking at the leveraging of robotics, automation, much more software-based, data-driven, artificial intelligence and analytics to really optimize your processes and take your operation and your performance to your customers, your ability to meet their needs to the next level. And so I'll walk through protecting people and places, and then I'll hand it over to Chris for driving productivity. So if we go to the next slide, before we dive into those three things, we have our second of our third question, which this time is really, which of the following objectives is the top priority in your distribution center and fulfillment operation? So many of you on the call here, we were really targeting those managers and executives in the retail supply chain, distribution center side of things. So what are your key objectives right now? Is it around kind of safe, healthy, protecting of your people and workplace environments? Is it looking at driving the productivity levels to meet increased customer demands? Maybe it's that shift of e-commerce that Chris referred to. Or is it really looking at setting yourself up for the future and looking at your capacity, looking at your operations, and how can you best optimize that with the mix of automation and kind of manual digitization, whether it's through voice, mobile computers, robotics, intelligent sortation systems, and broad-based warehousing environments. Could obviously be a number of other areas too, but we really tried to get a feel for what this audience is really focused in on here. And this is
pretty even split.
Yeah, very, very even split across the board here. So yeah, so I guess we'll have a little bit of information that's relevant to everyone here, and excited to kind of go forward here and see what piques your interest. So if we go ahead to the next slide, really protecting people and places. And what we'd like to really address here is that Honeywell has a pretty comprehensive view on how we can address worker and workplace safety, and how do we protect your most important assets, which are your employees. Whether it's basic personal protective equipment, which Honeywell is all over the news for with mask production, to very advanced systems where we've pivoted from decades of experience in the oil and gas industry detecting flame and gas leaks through thermal imaging cameras. We've pivoted that quickly and come out with thermal scanning systems to detect elevated body temperature for employee screening or other type of personnel screening before you start your shift. A number of solutions to provide traceability of assets and in which employees are using those assets. So you can look at contact tracing or other types of reports and analytics to ensure the devices were cleaned properly in between and who was accountable for those. And on the broad-based building side of things, we have a comprehensive multi-billion-dollar business that really looks at automating building management, providing security systems, HVAC systems. So think of air quality control. Think of contactless access to reduce the number of touch points that you may have to experience on a site. And then all of that really wrapped together on our analytics and IoT platform called Forge, which can bring all of that building data, all of that personnel data, and drive even more insightful analytics. So whether it's starting to do image recognition for appropriately wearing your personal protective equipment on site, looking at appropriately monitoring social distancing, really driving much more intelligence across the entire facility. And so the key takeaway here that I'd like you to leave with is Honeywell is very expansive. You see some of the safety opportunities we have here. Chris will talk about productivity and optimization. Reach out to your account rep just to learn more if you have any questions. But these are the areas that we see a number of our customers really exploring, investing, and considering moving forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thanks, Taylor. And we'll move on to some of the solutions and things that we can do for our customers to help improve labor productivity and productivity within the facility right now. So if you go to the next slide, please. There are a number of technology solutions that we have available today that can immediately improve productivity for the equipment, for the facility, and for each worker in the facility as well. We've got software solutions like labor management that helps to pull and extract data from the mobile devices, such as tablets, mobile computers, and things of that nature, scanners that your employees might be using in the various workflows, and not only gives them guidance on how to properly perform the workflow, but monitors their compliance with the steps, their productivity within each step, and also monitors for new employees the acceleration of their onboarding process so that you can improve the speed of productivity in their getting up to speed in a new role or position. And we also have mitigation metrics in place where we can alert a supervisor or a facility manager when there are certain behavioral metrics that are going on that might give you a cue that an employee is at risk of leaving. And we know we're experiencing a tight labor market today, and with the COVID-related situations and high levels of absenteeism, it's hard to retain people sometimes. And so you want to be able to keep and retain the people that you have to the greatest extent possible and minimize that downtime and optimize your uptime and productivity for each shift. We've got a number of voice and mobility devices as well. I touched on a little bit some of the guided work solutions, voice guided picking, that really help to improve productivity by over 30%. It improves quality of the picking operation by almost 50%. And there's a significant benefit that we've been able to measure, as I mentioned, for new employees, such that the time that it takes to train someone new is shortened by almost half when a voice-guided solution is deployed in the operation itself. So a lot of enhancements around productivity and quality, and frankly, worker satisfaction as well, because they're very clear about what steps need to be followed to complete the task properly and with quality. And I also wanted to touch on our available remote maintenance services. In the lower graphic, you'll see one of our employees demonstrating our TechSite technology. And this gives our customers the opportunity to show a picture or a graphic and video of a service need that they may have. So for example, let's say that you've got a conveyor belt that is vibrating excessively. We can walk your maintenance worker or even one of our workers through the process of properly diagnosing the problem, identifying what's required to repair it, and implement that repair procedure immediately using remote services. And as many of you know, it's been a struggle for your people to get into the facilities, and certainly we're struggling to get access to facilities to properly give you the service that you need. And so we've devised a number of remote service options for you to consider so that you can keep the touch points to a minimum. We can guide you through the process and do it on a very timely and efficient basis. So next slide. Okay, so let's talk about how we can help you to optimize your operations, improve productivity and throughput. And what we're hearing from many customers is optimization is certainly a goal, but many facilities experienced a significant decline in productivity with the onset of COVID. And their goal, frankly, is just to restore to the levels that it was before. And we have a number of solutions that can help to do that. Next slide. So in terms of various technologies and solutions that we have to improve throughput, output, and productivity, in the previous section, we talked about our voice and productivity solutions, but we also have our warehouse execution system software that integrates with the equipment that you have in the facility and links it to your ERP system. And that really helps to optimize how each piece of equipment and each equipment within an operating system performs over the life of that product. It helps your facility to be more productive. It helps your employees to be more productive. And because of the fact that we're pulling data from the operation and providing you with real-time analytics and dashboards, you're able to see where you have potential bottlenecks emerging before they even happen, so that you can deploy mitigation actions and optimize the uptime in your facility. A lot of people aren't familiar with the fact that Honeywell actually is in the robotics business. We have a number of robotics solutions that span from the graphic up top is our robotic unloader that actually grabs boxes and packages off of a truck and pulls them onto the conveyor for conveyance and sortation purposes. We've got packet picking robotic solutions. We've got mobile robotic solutions as well. And robotic solutions are important in a warehouse operation for automating those workflows and minimizing the number of touch points of a package in the conveyance, unloading, sortation, and fulfillment stages. The other benefit to many robotic solutions is they can improve workplace safety. One of the benefits of our unloader robotic solution is the fact that this is a high-risk task for many workers. The packages and boxes are often heavy. It is a highly repeatable function, and it's one of those workflows that typically has a lot of workplace injuries. And so this can help to reduce workers' compensation claims and just really help to keep the facility safer and healthier for all involved. And then one of the big trends that we're seeing in both the e-commerce vertical as well as omni-channel retail vertical is the trend in micro-fulfillment, which includes both standalone facilities as well as back of store solutions. And it's a fully automated fulfillment center that is intended to really shorten that fulfillment and delivery time for last mile delivery. So think of sortation, conveyance, shuttle, maybe even ambient temperature and freezer storage and buffering capacity of your highest moving SKUs concentrated in a much smaller footprint, a lower cost facility and footprint compared to more of a macro fulfillment center. And we've got solutions to help our customers to deploy micro-fulfillment centers as well and really improve the order to delivery timing and last mile delivery experience for their customers. Next slide. So a lot of the things that we've been working on for our customers is not only the deployment of automation solutions, but making those automation solutions more effective, more intelligent, and arming our customers and facility managers with the data that they need to ensure that the facility is operating according to the KPIs and performance expectations that they establish. We started off this conversation, and really the title of this webinar is around helping to make your workplaces healthier, safer, and more productive. And so we've developed a number of dashboards and reporting capabilities to help you to assess and monitor workplace safety and health through our Healthier Dashboard for your facility. Taylor touched earlier on our Honeywell Forge platform. It's not only an optimization platform, it's also a data intelligence platform that deploys both artificial intelligence and machine learning to extract information and do predictive analytics to give you real-time insights and information that allow you to act immediately where you feel like you need to make some shifts or improvements in the operation or with a piece of equipment or a particular system. We've also incorporated that intelligence technology in our building automation systems and controls. So you have the ability through Honeywell's building automation systems to control an entire facility as well as an entire enterprise from a single control center. And that can mean helping your facilities to operate more energy efficiently. You can monitor and adjust the airflow requirements, the air quality requirements without any intrusion or incidents on behalf of your facilities and your employees. And then finally, the access control for contact tracing. You know, we all have a very heightened awareness around complying with social distancing requirements as well as workflow requirements, and our digital and mobile devices as well as our facility systems give you the technology to be able to monitor who comes in contact with whom, ensures that they are complying with the social distancing guidelines that you are putting in place, and you've got a data record to monitor that, track it, and course correct if need be. Next slide. And then taking the analytics and the measurement and monitoring to another level, we've got systems in place to do asset monitoring as well, where we deploy sensors and extract data from edge devices and controls so that we can proactively monitor and measure how each piece of equipment is performing in the facility. These dashboards that are showing on the right side of the slide are real world indicators that we use with existing customers to show them when a certain system is performing within the bandwidth that they've established and those that are performing below expectations. And we provide them with guidelines, insights, and a list of course corrective actions that they can be taking to get back to that green zone for their operation. That's called our connected asset system, and it's an invaluable tool and system that really helps you to optimize uptime of your facility and improve throughput. It's really all about not only asset optimization and utilization, but also about optimizing capacity of the facility. The other benefit to this is maintenance in part. So we're able to, through the data extraction and reporting, be able to tell when a certain piece of equipment is in need of proactive service or maintenance. We can send an alert to the facility manager or the director of service operations and maintenance and let them know through our alerts and alarm system that this particular component needs service or replacement. And we take them through a series of prompts that allows them to either order service, to proactively order the part that's needed to be replaced. And all of that can take place at a moment's notice, and we can expedite that process to ensure that downtime is minimized and the service experience is flawless. And I spoke briefly earlier about our Momentum Warehouse Execution System. The benefit of this system is to really deploy an orchestration and automation of all of the elements in the warehouse automation system, tying together both the fulfillment process, labor management, workload balancing, and giving you reporting capabilities to make real-time decisions about optimizing your facility's performance. Next slide. So we've got another poll question. Which technologies do you most want to implement in your operations? Voice-directed solutions to drive workforce productivity, robotics to replace undesirable and unsafe jobs, facility monitoring tools to maintain workplace health and safety, predictive maintenance to prevent unplanned downtime, and warehouse execution system software to automate order fulfillment and balance workloads. Give that a minute.
We've learned from our first mistake, Chris. We don't give all of the above as an option anymore.
Well, in that particular question, they were all important. Right, see what we come up with. All right, looks like 33% selected warehouse execution system and 30% selected robotics. Very good. All right. So then we wanted to give you some design examples that really ties all of these solutions together. Both Taylor and I have shared a number of possible solutions that can help you to create a healthier, safer, and more productive environment for your business and for your employees. So let's see how all of those things come together. So this is an example of a healthier building solution. As I mentioned, these represent all of the different kinds of technologies and solutions that Honeywell could provide if these were needs that you had. So it's a blend of touchless access control, temperature screening, alerts from a security perspective, UV light sterilization, lockdown monitoring, air purification systems, enhanced quality, air quality, negative pressure and monitoring control. So these are technologies that are offered primarily through our Honeywell Building Technologies team to really help to improve the health and safety of the facility itself. You'll notice that we've also included solutions like our PPE kits and things of that nature. On the next slide, we show our distribution center. So all of the solutions that you saw in the healthy office building, we can also deploy in the distribution center. Surprisingly, one of the things that we learned when we were assessing facilities and the cost of facilities the highest cost in operating a facility is number one, labor, and number two, believe it or not, lights. And what's nice about the technology that our building technologies team can deploy is around energy efficiency solutions. So more energy efficient lighting solutions, more energy efficient HVAC and temperature control solutions, and all of those things can be integrated with the automation systems that we can deploy for you as well. This is an example of a retailer, an e-commerce facility where we've got an automated storage and retrieval system in the upper left-hand corner, combined with sortation and conveyance systems. So we really have the ability to work with you on the type of layout and design that you need to advance your automation capabilities. We can design it and develop it so that it's modular, because we're sensitive to the fact that not all of our customers are constructing these large greenfield facilities. Many of you might be looking for modifications and upgrades to existing facilities to help improve automation, productivity, and throughput, and we can do that for you as well, while also incorporating voice guided work, mobility and productivity devices to help improve the productivity and quality of output of your labor force as well. Next slide. And then I talked briefly about micro-fulfillment centers. So you'll see that this is an execution of a micro DC, much smaller footprint, but still utilizing a lot of the similar technologies that you might see in a regular DC, but in a smaller, more compact space. Certainly utilizes a lot more advanced automation solutions like our automated storage and retrieval system, incorporating our Momentum warehouse execution system software, a lot around smart talk and PPE detection to keep our workers productive and safe at the same time. Particularly for those industries that are in the grocery segment, we can also incorporate temperature, humidity, cold storage control, and things of that nature. And then also the autonomous mobile robots and robotic picking solutions to help expedite that picking and mobility process of moving product from one area to another more quickly. Next slide. And that is it. So I guess we're at a point right now, Tracy, where I think we can take some questions.
Yes, yep, absolutely. So thanks a lot, Chris and Taylor, for a great presentation. And as Chris mentioned, we are going to move on to the question and answer portion of our live event. And as a reminder, you may ask an online question in the Q&A feature along the bottom of your screen. So with that, I will move on to some of the questions here. Let's see, we've got quite a few have come in. So first question is, which solutions can be used to provide contact tracing of personnel or devices?
Yeah, do you want me to start with that, Chris, and
Sure.
let you kind of address? Yeah, so I think across Honeywell, you can imagine a large organization. We actually have a number of solutions that can address that. Within the productivity product side of things, we've actually deployed capabilities using the Bluetooth technology in our mobile computers, coupled with our operational intelligence cloud-based analytics platform built on Forge to aggregate the data to be able to alert, notify, log, and then really provide that kind of reporting on the back end for full contact tracing based off of which employees are using a device at a given time. Chris alluded to Honeywell Forge and some of the intelligent building monitoring that we have as well. But then also, Chris, I think there's some voice capabilities or some capabilities we have on the voice systems as well.
Right. Our voice systems have the capability to draw information from the device that the worker is using and determine through mapping technology, how close they come to another employee or worker to monitor that compliance with social distancing, and also determine who has logged in for specific shifts. So who were working together in a particular workflow or zone of the building or the facility, and they can monitor and track contact tracing in that way too, through the labor management system also.
Okay, so I think you may have answered a little bit of our next question, which is how can shift supervisors ensure that mobile devices and personal protective equipment are assigned to individual users?
Yeah, so maybe I can take that. So we do have some capability across Honeywell for kind of core asset management or asset check-in, check-out, as we call it, which could apply to mobile devices, but really think of any type of uniquely identifiable or serialized asset. It could be a forklift truck, it could be a two-handed push cart or pallet jack, it really could be anything. But the platform allows kind of a check-in, check-out process. So at the start of the shift, an employee could scan their badge or somehow associate to them, scan the serial numbers on the different assets, and those assets are associated to them for the shift. When they return them, you could ask for a couple quick questions to look at the state or quality of the assets as they're returned, and then they're checked back in to be ready for the next employee. And so that platform is very extensible. It's not just mobile computers, and allows, again, kind of that contact tracing of which employees handled and were assigned each asset for any reporting that may be necessary.
Okay, let's see. Can mobile devices be configured to notify workers when they're violating social distancing guidelines?
Violating sounds so harsh. But, yes, the short answer is yes. So whether it's the voice devices, our mobile computers, we have the capability to detect when you may be kind of breaking or infracting upon that 6-foot range, and whether it's a audible or tactile, like vibration, or visual type feedback, or completely passive. If as a supervisor, you just want to log the events to start to understand how the employees are operating, we have that capability in our systems today.
Okay, let's see. Is it possible to enforce or encourage proper cleaning procedures?
Yeah, so if we're referring to cleaning procedures within a particular workflow, this is certainly something that we've been doing in the airline industry for a long time. We've learned a lot from that and have designed workflows embedded in our voice technology. And I know Taylor's solutions have a similar kind of technology available as well within our guided work and also in our maintenance and inspection solution, where we can guide employees through a very prescriptive checklist where, you know, they complete one step at the task and they have to sign off that they've completed to move on to the next one. And it really ensures that all of the steps have been followed, they've been complied to, and they're aligned to the guidelines and the requirements that the company has put in place to verify that that particular workspace or facility area has been completely cleaned and sanitized. We can apply it to equipment too.
Yep. And I think the process compliance is key that you said, Chris, because a lot of companies deploy policies, but many times they're in paper binders, and you can really drive that compliance with the system you referred to.
Okay, let's see here. How can employees maintain the communication needed to effectively function as a team?
Yeah, I think we touched on a few of those. I mean, Chris alluded to our Tech Insight, where you can actually drive the remote kind of see what I see field technician capability. We also have a solution called Smart Talk, which provides a full unified communication collaboration tool. So whether it's encrypted chat and messaging, video conferencing, voice over IP, so voice calls, but it can really allow workers to quickly get in touch with one another for that rapid onboarding and training and learning, or even potentially with external customers. So you think of the more and more progressive curbside pickup. So that type of smart talk environment not only allows employees to collaborate, but could also be used to communicate outward to your mobile app or your customers that may be coming outside the building for curbside pickup.
Okay, let's see. The next question I think really revolves around TechSite, which is how effective are remote maintenance and troubleshooting technologies?
Extremely effective. We found, particularly with the onset of COVID in the March timeframe, we have a number of customers that we have contract maintenance agreements with, and we could not access the facilities. And so by having technologies like TechSite, as well as being able to, using our connected assets technology to monitor equipment performance and troubleshoot the maintenance requirements, we were able to diagnose, resolve, and guide our customers' maintenance and repair departments through those processes to repair the facility, repair the equipment, and restore productivity. We have a number of other maintenance or remote services that we deployed during this phase that have really been so well accepted, we're going to continue in them, like remote training, remote parts inventory assessment, as well as providing guidance on parts inventory mix and deployment based on historical utilization rates. So a number of those services that we used to exclusively provide in person, we now offer in a dual or bimodal path where it can be done either in person or remotely.
Okay, so the next question, Chris, I know you touched a bit on the healthier distribution dashboard, and the next question is asking, with so many potential impacts to workplace safety, how can DC operators keep track of all the moving pieces? So I'm not sure if you had anything else that you wanted to add to, what you presented.
I think we touched on it during the presentation, but one of the things that we've learned from a lot of our customers over the last few months is we've all had to get a bit more prescriptive and disciplined with our safety procedures, our compliance protocols for not only ensuring that safety steps are followed, but personal protection steps are followed. And the good thing about that is we can put the systems and the technologies in place to ensure that the employees are following and complying with those steps, and we're giving their managers the data to prove that the compliance is taking place. And if it's not, it's a teachable moment then. The manager can go back to that employee and show them the steps that were missed, give them some coaching and counseling and put the corrective actions in place to fix it.
Okay, let's see. How can micro-fulfillment centers contribute to a healthier workplace or retail environment?
Well, I think the biggest thing that micro-fulfillment centers do to promote a healthier environment is the significant increase in the percentage of workflows that are completely automated. So a micro-fulfillment center requires fewer people in the facility to operate the equipment and to execute all of the different workflows, because more of that work is performed by automated, whether it be conveyance, sortation, robotic solutions and things like that. And it really depends on the type of facility and the way that it's being operated, because if it's in the back of a grocery store and primarily used as a buffering system, then that facility's primary use is to pick, pack, and store orders until the consumer's ready to pick it up. And, you know, Taylor had mentioned the enormous increase in buy online, pick up in store and e-commerce. It just significantly reduces the number of touch points and handoffs of a particular package from the point it gets picked to the point that it gets to the consumer. So it improves cleanliness and safety for everyone.
Okay, and I think we have time for one more question. So let's see, how can retailers better control occupancy rates and ensure customer safety?
Yeah, maybe I'll take that. So really to help with the occupancy side of things, we know that there's fairly expensive fixed systems that can keep track of people counting for a site. But what we've seen a number of retailers, at least in the interim basis, is they may be positioning employees at each entry and exit way, keeping kind of mental count or physical count. And we've actually deployed a very simple application. You just have to hit a plus or a minus, whether someone's coming in or leaving a facility or site or store. And any device that's linked up onto the operational intelligence platform connected to that site or associated to that site will synchronize. So if you have 3 or 4 or 5 entry exit ways, you can now instantly set a occupancy threshold, plus or minus at any of those 5 entry exit ways, and really be alerted and informed and report when you need to maybe withhold more customers coming in, or you can allow more coming in as well. On top of that, just from a safety standpoint, we mentioned thermal rebellion for the elevated body temperature screening. So there's a number of other solution-based capabilities through our building solutions and our safety division that can help drive that as well.
All right, well, thanks. And I mean, as I mentioned, I think that was going to be our last question. That's really all the time that we have for questions today. So I wanted to thank all of the attendees for their participation. And if we were unable to answer your question during today's live event, we will send you a response via email. Also, a big thank you to Chris and Taylor for a really informative presentation. So we much appreciate your time. And as a reminder to our attendees, within approximately 48 hours after this live event, you can access this presentation on demand at intelligrated.com/on-the-move. And you will also receive an email with a link to the on-demand presentation, as well as a link to a video titled Healthier DCs. So on behalf of Honeywell Intelligrated, thank you for attending today's On the Move webinar. Registration information for our next webinar will be available soon on our website at intelligrated.com/on-the-move, and we hope you can join us then. So thanks and have a great afternoon.